You are listening to the Warrior Project podcast, where mindset, tribe, and violence meet.
My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Project podcast. We are on iTunes, and I ask that you leave a review. If you like the material, of course. Leave a review, leave a rating. The more reviews and ratings you leave, the easier it's going to be for people who would enjoy this content to find the podcast. So I appreciate those that have done it already. And think about doing it if you have a minute, if you have not done so yet. So, today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, very much related to my identity, my life, my career even. And the query for today's episode: what is the best martial art to take? So, there are a lot of different martial arts out there these days. And if you've been following the world of martial arts over these last decades, you know that there was a time where karate was where it's at, kung fu at one point, and different arts, different goals, different personas, celebrities, very much driven by movies and, the military. And, obviously in the 90s, we had the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu craze. I myself, for those of you that don't know, I've been a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt for over 10 years. I've been training over 16 at this point. I think I'm coming up on 17 years now. But I also run a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts school in the Bronx, New York. I used to fight professionally also, many moons ago. So one would think, and I think rightfully so, that I do possess a certain degree of bias in what I think the best martial art to take is. But I would ask you to shelf that thought for a second and listen to what I have to say. So I think when determining what the best martial art to take actually is, you have to determine first, well, what is your martial mission? What is it you're trying to accomplish? What are your goals? I know that in my academy, sometimes I have guys that really want to learn how to grapple because they see all the grappling and the mixed martial arts techniques shown in the UFC and whatnot. But I also know I have guys in my academy that, just want to get in shape. They want to learn how to counter violence in the street, what other people would call self-defense. They want to learn how to be more confident. Some of them want to make some friends. Some of them want to be around other men. Maybe they're surrounded by women, or they're alone a lot, and they need that camaraderie that comes very natural to a lot of men. But whatever the case is, different people have different intentions and different missions when it comes to martial arts. I know that there was a time where, having fought professionally already, achieved black belt status, and achieved a certain amount of mastery in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the techniques involved in it, I knew I needed to do more. I knew, I'm married, I have 4 children. I knew that it did not take much for there to be a situation, a scenario, that I would not have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or mixed martial arts answer to. The guy approaching me and my family in a parking lot with a knife, or 2 guys with knives, or, chance forbid, a gun, right? What's the jiu-jitsu move for that? How do you armbar the gun out of the guy's hand from 20 feet away? You guys see what I'm getting at. And I think as I evolved as a martial artist, I saw that my mission evolved and I needed to evolve with it, right? And when I'm looking at different martial arts, one of the things that I like to use to determine whether it's nonsense or not is something I call the trifecta, right? The martial arts trifecta. And basically, these are 3 conditions that a martial art would have to pass, would have to possess, in order for me to approve its validity as a martial art at all. So this is even beyond, is this in line and congruent with our mission? This is beyond that. This is the martial art legitimate at all to begin with? Because, it only takes a cursory search on YouTube and Google to find these videos with these no-touch knockouts, these key masters, or, the ninja that are running around the woods, and you look at these guys and they've never been in a fight before. It doesn't take much to find them. The information's out there, but we also know if you have any relationship with violence, if you have any experience that is based in reality and the violence that sometimes goes along with it, we know, sometimes these guys, they just don't rub us the right way. There's a little bit of deception, a little bit of maybe delusion involved, but the trifecta is meant to determine which side of the fence, an individual martial art falls on. And the three conditions of the trifecta. Number one, does your martial art deal in reality? Meaning, do you guys fight? Is there some sort of a background or attachment, a connection to reality-based observation and execution that has helped establish the identity of your martial art? Like I know in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and boxing and wrestling and in different, sort of contemporary martial arts that have even evolved into sporting, sort of subsets, right? We do what it is that we teach. We do it live. We do it against resisting opponents. We do it in real time. We don't do it against, wooden dummies made out of people, right? We don't do it in sort of time traveling sort of formats where a guy makes one move in one beat in time and I get a 5-beat answer before the guy is expected to move again. The sort of delusional, just not based in reality type of technique and curriculum. So does, condition one, does your martial art deal with reality? Do you guys actually fight? Now, I will say, I've been training in Sayak Kali for a few years now, and realistically, we do not go out and stab people to see if our techniques work, right? Obviously, that is not an option. But one of the things that, you observe in a lot of family-based weapons systems like Sayak Kali is, that there is a timeline of experience that's been gathered through generations, through different conflicts, historical based conflicts, whether it was the invasion of the Philippines and Sayak, then, or maybe, the people who are in our military and different walks of life that are forced and thrust into these violent situations that train in Sayak nowadays. Whatever the case is, it's important that there be that connection to reality, right? So sometimes, you'll have guys that'll say, well, I'm a boxer. I put my gloves on and I fight. I box every day. My martial art is real, but you guys are practicing with metal training blades. You guys aren't stabbing anybody. You guys aren't doing anything. You've never killed anybody. How do you know that's real? And I would say at first glance, it seems like a valid observation, but we know it does not take much to scale up a level of violence to where it is completely impractical to expect to have a way to practice these things while doing it live on a regular basis. So we have to respect the connection that we have, sometimes by proxy, through other people, to that relationship with reality, right? So number one, does your martial art deal in reality? Number two, when you are using your martial art in reality, i.e. when you're fighting, do you use the curriculum taught and practiced? So this is another condition, a sort of filter that a lot of martial arts fall by the wayside. I know, and I'm not going to name, specific martial arts these days. Put it this way, I'm building up a podcast audience. I don't want to turn off too many people in the beginning. But let's speak in generality enough and in universals enough that people know if this applies to them. And with this second condition of the trifecta, I'm thinking of those people that practice a curriculum over and over and over again, repetitively, to the point where they know these movements like the back of their hand. The movements might involve the back of their hand. But then when you see them fight, when you see them go live, and this could be sparring in class, it could be getting into a street-based, counter-violent situation, i.e. a fight, you see none of the techniques that they've practiced reveal themselves. When it is go time, when they are in the middle of it, when it is live, when it matters, none of the techniques they practice are anywhere to be found. I know a lot of martial artists that if you see them do their demos, their katas, the demonstration of their different techniques and sequences, it's very impressive. It requires, admittedly, a certain level of skill, a certain level of dedication, fitness, and all of that. But then when I see them fight, I see arms flailing. I see, all of the mistakes that I recognize beginners of having in sparring, in my mixed martial arts school. The turning the face away, which is a very, evolutionary sort of valid thing to do when something's threatening your face, to move it away to protect it. Closing their eyes on contact. Looking to sort of make these big gross motor movements, which speaks to the effect of adrenaline on their ability to do the small movements that they seem to practice every day in class, right? A lot of the times the joke I make is that beginners forget they have elbows, right? Their arms become these like long ropes with rocks at the end of them that they just swing from their shoulders, right? We see that happen all the time. So the second condition, when you're actually using your martial art in reality, when you're fighting, are you using the curriculum that you're practicing every day, right? That's the second filter. And the third filter, which I think is it's one of the things that I would lead with, and I would say that it takes a little bit more of a mature, experienced perspective to lead with this filter. But the third one is, does your martial art win? Basically, can you fight? So let me give you a hypothetical, all right? And let's go through the three conditions so I can explain the validity and the value of that third filter. Let's say, number one, does your martial art deal in reality? Yeah, let's say that I have a headbutt the belly system, right? I have a system where we use our forehead to headbutt people in the belly. And that is the way we fight. And we spar. We spar every day, every class, right? So number one, does your martial art deal in reality? Yeah, here we are. We're going live against resisting opponents, right? Maybe we have somebody do MMA while we're doing our forehead foo, right? So does it meet the first requirement? Absolutely. Number two, when I'm using this martial art, am I using and applying the curriculum that I practice? Well, let's say that I am. Let's say here I am, forehead foo master, and I'm sparring a guy who's using MMA or street fighting techniques, and I sure as hell am trying to put my forehead through his abdomen, right? So yes, I am utilizing the curriculum that I practice. But this hypothetical shows just how important the third condition is. Does your martial art win? And I don't think it takes much imagination or convincing to get you guys to agree with me that that is probably not a way to win fights, trying to forehead and headbutt people in the belly, right? So the trifecta, just to say them all again. Number one, does your martial arts deal in reality? Do they fight? Number two, when they are fighting, when they're using your martial art in reality, do you utilize the curriculum that you practice, the curriculum that you teach your students? And number three, does your martial art win? Because that's kind of the point, isn't it? Right? I know when we observe different martial arts and the techniques that are embedded in those martial arts, sometimes context is lost over time. I think of the flying side kick, right? And the flying side kick, which is seen in a lot of karate systems, kung fu systems, very famously and argued by a lot of masters in those systems, not myself. I don't consider myself, I'm lucky if I could put my foot up to tie my shoe at this point. But the flying side kick was used to knock people off of horses, was used to take people down who are in a higher perched position from those positions. Well, if you think about it now, the flying sidekick in a regular fight, it kind of makes it seem less silly, knowing that there was an application that probably made it completely logical, right? So I know if there's somebody on a horse that I'm in a fight with and I want to get him off the horse, well, if I could jump high enough to put my foot on him, then yeah, that is kind of a valid way to get him off, isn't it? So context is important. So when we're looking at different martial arts, right, because the query for this episode is what is the best martial art to take? Well, let's ask ourselves, what is our mission? If it is to become the most viable, effective fighter or warrior in the context of today's martial needs, well, then you will have to sort of remain loyal to the context of today's requirements, right? I do not need to know how to throw a flying sidekick to kick somebody off of a horse, as an example, right? So, my take. What is the best martial art to take? My take on it is, number one, you need to find your martial mission. You need to find your martial mission. I know when I started taking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's because I wanted to compete again in mixed martial arts. I saw, like so many people in my generation of Jiu-Jitsu, I saw Royce Gracie and all of the superstars of the octagon, and I said, you know what? I really like competing. I like the discipline that my life has when I'm competing, and I also like fighting. I like hitting people. So that is something to sort of set as a goal, and that was the impetus for me joining Jiu-Jitsu, right? So that was my reality at that point. But then, as my mission evolved, and I got to the point where I was a black belt, I had fought professionally, and I started having children. I started realizing that my mission changed, and that's when I started pursuing, Sayak Kali, more weapons-based systems. That's when I started shooting regularly, learning my way around a gun. So, number one, find your martial mission, right? Number two, very important, follow the martial arts trifecta. If you have a mission, you have a sort of a need that needs to be fulfilled, and you find a martial art, well, you got to run it through that trifecta to see if it is a valid martial art. Is this martial art going to provide you the answers that you're seeking, provide you the training that you're seeking, right? So number one, follow your martial mission. Number two, follow the trifecta. And finally, number three, allow your mission to evolve and evolve along with it. If you look at my path, I started off, like I just said, wanting to compete in MMA. But then I sort of been there, done that at a certain point, and I realized, wait a minute, I can't use this stuff to protect my kids. I didn't even have kids when I started, but now what can I do to protect them? And I saw, obviously, the need for weapons training, right? The need to sort of familiarize myself with firearms and firearms training. And I will say, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I had no interest in learning how to use a blade or a gun, because that would not have satisfied the mission I was on at that point in time. Okay? So I hope that all makes sense. I want you guys to visit masterchim.com. That is the email where you could leave, or that is the address where you could leave your email for the Master Chim letter. The Master Chim letter is a daily morning email that I send out. It's completely free. And I talk about different topics, updates, announcements, things of that nature. But it's just another way for me to get you content. And it happens on a daily basis. So you can go to masterchim.com, and put your email in there to sign up. Another site I want you to visit, thewarriorproject.com. Now, two things that you could do on thewarriorproject.com, two main things. Number one, you could access other episodes of this podcast. Now, obviously, we're on iTunes, we're on a couple of other databases, but with the warriorproject.com, they are all there for you to stream right off of the site itself. So if you ever want to just look at other episodes and you have access to iTunes, we're right there. The second thing you could do on thewarriorproject.com is you could join us behind the wall and join the Warrior Project Tribe. Now, the Warrior Project Tribe is my membership site. There are a whole lot of things that go on that site. I'm not going to list them all now. You can go and check it out there. But needless to say, there's more content, more access, a lot more power. Right? So, masterchim.com for the Master Chim letter, thewarriorproject.com for episodes of this podcast, and also to access my membership site, the Warrior Project Tribe. So hope you enjoy this episode, And remember, warriors, someone believes in you. Prove them right.